Moral issues, government, economy, education, work, responsibility. What we think about these depends on our worldview. Now, VCY America presents Worldview Radio with Brannon House.
Welcome. Glad you are with us. Going to be joined by Peter McIlvena out of the UK here for a few minutes, and then Dr. Andy Woods for a Middle East Bible prophecy update. Finally, a little bit of good news out of the UK. Right to criticize Islam is protected under British law, judge rules. But at the same time, we have the Prime Minister of Canada today announcing that he is going to go in stronger with the European Union in climate change. And of course, this is going to mean more digital IDs. Of course, we know we are being told by the folks over there in the UK, like the EU's, what's her name, Ursula, is the one telling us that we need digital IDs to protect jobs. It's always for safety, efficiency, our own protection, isn't it? We need to enslave you in order to protect you. That's what they tell us. And so Canada and the EU working together. And of course, they are the model for much of the world. And I believe we are headed for a Eurocentric world government. That's what the Bible seems to describe. Let's get to all that. Let's start out today first with Peter McIlvena in the UK. Peter, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Brannon, always good to join you. I'm sorry I joined you on negative news from the UK, but maybe a positive slant, which you brought.
Yeah, exactly. Let's start out with the good news first. Right to criticize Islam is protected under British law. That's what a judge rules. How long before he's smacked down by another judge or another court?
Right. This was an intriguing ruling by the courts because we have the UK government pushing an Islamophobia legal definition, which is Muslim blasphemy by the back door. And yet we have this judge saying you have the right to critique Islam. And of course, Islam does not think it has any right to be critiqued or mocked or ridiculed or questioned. So this is a really intriguing ruling, and we in the UK wait to see what this actually means, whether it was just the judge pressed the wrong button on his ruling and it came up the wrong side, or whether this will have positive ramifications and pushback for the attack on free speech that we have had. And Brannon, we have had in the weekly pro-Hamas demonstrations in London, we have had the police arresting Israeli protesters because they might inflame concern or offense amongst the pro-Hamas demonstrators. And I just been messaging someone who's going to be on my show soon, hopefully, and that's Joey Barton, ex-footballer, who says what he thinks online, and he was just prosecuted for a grossly offensive statement. Now, I don't know what world we live in, but there used to be a day where if you said something offensive, it was not legally prosecutable in a court. You're not breaking the law. You were simply engaging maybe in a way that was crass, offensive, but surely that wasn't passing the law of legality. But that's where we are in the UK. So you've got many different court rulings all clashing against one another. In the middle of that, you've got a Labour Party, Keir Starmer, obviously in disarray, and many have been calling for Keir Starmer's head, metaphorically, for him to stand down as Prime Minister. So there's a huge issue in the Labour Party, but really they've been pushing for this Islamophobia definition. So it is utter confusion here in the UK, but I will hold on to your good news, Brannon.
Because that's about all you guys have. Now, let's go to a speech today, or in the last few hours, maybe last 24 hours or so, by the Prime Minister of Canada. I can find it here in all the things I have opened, because he is saying he's going to work more with your government to bring in really tyranny, EU and Canada working together on climate change, censoring, all kinds of things that they're going to do, I guess, under the guise of saving us all. Here it is. Here's the Prime Minister of Canada.
Joint research and innovation. You know, at its core, final word, Europe was born as a project of peace. And Canada, over the years, over the decades, has served alongside European allies in pursuit of that peace. It's that, in those circumstances, from Vimy to Juno, that the world came to know the value of our strength. But now we're working alongside the European Union to combat climate change, to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, and to protect, amongst other things, academic and scientific freedoms. In these ways, the world knows the strength of our values. And this partnership, which is in defense and security and economics, really builds the strength, builds those strengths in both our jurisdictions and lives up to our values.
Now, I don't know when this happened, but here's the clip going around today. But there you go. We're headed for supranational nations. This is very much a part of globalism. And what I wrote about in my book in 2016, The Coming Religious Reich, which I want to share with you a little bit about what's in that book. But we're headed toward these partnerships and these agreements that create these supranational countries, which I think, again, we're headed for a Eurocentric world government. I'm holding to it. I believe that's what the Bible describes. A lot of people don't realize, I know this audience is made up of a lot of very, very informed, intelligent people, so they do. But London is so full of major, major financial institutions. So I think there's a lot of reasons to think we're headed for a Eurocentric world government, and I'm not shocked to see Canada making this alliance more with the EU. Now, the question is how long before Canada and America and Mexico become our own alliance and do the same thing collectively as Canada's doing with the EU. Peter?
Well, Mark Carney, the new leader in Canada, is an interesting character because, of course, he was head of the Bank of Canada, I think 2008 to 2013, and then he became the governor of the Bank of England. He has never been a politician before. I don't think he's been elected before. I think he was dropped into that position, and actually then Canada went to the polls and he was elected as Prime Minister without ever having sat in the Canadian Parliament. So he has no clue of how the political side works. He knows on the finance, and he is a liberal. So when you play that clip, I feel shudders going down my spine, Brandon, because I thought we had got rid of him. And yet he is now back on the world stage. And the Conservatives, the Canadian electorate, they snatched defeat from the jaws of victory when they actually elected Mark Carney to be leader. And he is very much plugged in as Governor of Bank of England. He was very much plugged in to the European side, to the EU, to the European Central Bank, to that huge global entity that seeks to control our lives, 500 million people's lives in Europe. And he's very liberal. His daughter, I think one of his daughters was one of the early patients in the Tavistock Clinic in London, which was one of the world's premier sex change clinics, where they butchered thousands and thousands of children without any parental engagement. He was part of that. So that shows where he is moving in terms of godlessness, in terms of butchering children, in terms of the LGBT agenda, in terms of this supranational organizations that want to control things above and beyond national government. He has no love at all of the national state, and we've had this clash in Europe with countries like Italy and Hungary and Poland actually standing for the rights of the nation state. And then we've had the global entities trying to seek to destroy that. And although he's been elected Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney is very much in erasing the lines of the national state and wanting that supranational, international control of these globalist bodies. So it is is really concerning of the position he has, the rhetoric he has, and of how he is pushing that through the media. So all that is a concern for Canada.
Can you go back real quick to the Tavistock Institute? Because I don't know if you know this, but in my brainwashing series, I talk a lot about the Tavistock Institute, which one of their leaders came out of the World Health Organization. And they were big on the idea of creating an environment where men and women, the population, was put in a warlike scenario, because people, when they were put in such a state of fear and anxiety, calm and then trauma, they would be more open to ideas and suggestions they otherwise would not be. The Tavistock Institute. And you just mentioned them in relation to Carney. What is his connection to it?
Well, of course, your viewers in Worldview Tube will be understanding this situation. And the Tavistock Clinic, I think, was running for about 20 years, was shut down and then reopened, as we often find with these entities. They are shut down legally, but they reopen elsewhere under a different name with the same people. And that's what we found the Tavistock Clinic. And it had been experimenting, butchering children for 20 years without any long-term evidence of the damage or not damage of puberty blockers of these transition experiments on children. And we had so many children who were put through this, who basically went to these clinics because they were confused with their identity. And the vast majority of children who go through that confusion come out the other side as they are born, the entity they're born in, male or female. But they went to these clinics just as children go, I think, often to abortion clinics and want to ask for help. And the help they're given is a pathway along a certain track that goes along with the ideology of that entity. And certainly the Tavistock Clinic, it was pushing these children along a sex change conveyor belt. And they had little understanding of what was happening because they were utterly confused. And the anger I feel, Brannon, is that the British state were experimenting on vulnerable children. They came to these clinics with confusion of who they were, their identity, and instead of finding someone they could discuss that with and help them through that process, they were very quickly put on experimental drugs and puberty blockers, which are zero long-term understanding of the huge impact they have. Yet they were put on these, they were chopped, cut off, bits removed, moved on that process. And I've talked to Chloe Cole. I talked to Chloe Cole maybe 3-4 months ago on my program, and she is one of the very high-profile detransitioners from California. And she talked about her understanding her experience, her story about being pushed down this and now regretting that. And of course, many of these children possibly are regretting the decision they have not made by themselves, but being coerced down by these institutions. So the Tavistock Clinic is a despicable institution that sadly is replicated across Europe. I know the Netherlands was one of the first countries to bring this. The UK followed quickly.
All right.
And the damage we've done to children is horrendous.
The computer's going to take it away. I'll come back. We're going to get to more. Don't go away, folks. Andy Wood's also coming up.
Introducing the Sentry Wellness System, the ultimate under-sink water treatment solution designed with you in mind. Say goodbye to harmful toxins and hello to water enriched with essential nutrients like calcium and magnesium. Enjoy the benefits of increased pH for on-demand alkalinity, all from a zero-waste system that fits seamlessly into your home. Installation is a breeze, taking just 15 minutes, so you can have clean, healthy, great-tasting water straight from your tap. Perfect for apartments, homes, rentals, and even RVs. Elevate your hydration and well-being with the Sentry Wellness System because you deserve the best in every drop.
Sentry H2O. Tap into wellness.
You're watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon House.
All right, guys, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Worldview Radio, our website, worldviewradio.com. We're going to go to Dr. Andy Woods here in just one moment, but we'll finish our conversation with Peter McElvena. Take a look at this. This is page 77 of my book, The Coming Religious Reich. The Coming Religious Reich, page 77 from 2016. As Rob Condon also reveals in his excellent book, The European Union and the Supra-Religion, the real father of the European Union is Jean Monnet, who lived from 1888 to 1979. In 1943, Monnet declared, quote, "There will be no peace in Europe if the states are reconstituted on the basis of national sovereignty. The countries of Europe are too small to guarantee their peoples the necessary prosperity and social development. The European states must constitute themselves into a federation," end quote. And Monnet believed, as I write, he could implement a global supra-authority through economics and regulation. By the way, think climate change regulation, folks. To accomplish this goal, Monnet laid out a five-step plan to create a supra-authority. His plan is now being implemented and is causing nation states to surrender their national and economic sovereignty to a global body of unelected officials, much like the unelected world leaders Tony Blair is calling to rule the world. Monnet's five-step plan mandates include 1, economic free trade partnerships, 2, open borders, shared citizenship and monetary system, 3, external security partnership through solidarity in foreign policy, 4, internal security, common rule of law and enforcement, and 5, total control by supra-government of human rights and social progress, end quote. 2016, by the way, you don't need to buy the book, The Coming Religious Reich. It is available for you as a member of the Vault at worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault, all 500 pages, 600 footnotes. That book is there. The other book came out a couple weeks ago, my book on Hamas. October 7th comes to America, inside the U.S. network of Hamas in America. That's available in the Vault now, of course, worldviewtube.com/vault. And as of today, we have now just released my book on Siege. Siege, just released it. That's based on my 2019 documentary, Siege. And if you want to get that book again, you do not need to buy it. It's available in the Vault as a PDF to read online or download print off at worldviewtube.com/vault. Subtitled, The Clear and Present Dangers Pushing America to the Brink of a Marxist Islamic Revolution, Civil War, World War III, and Globalism. Now, folks, look at that subtitle. That was December 2019. Are all those issues on the table right now? On the brink of a Marxist Islamic revolution in America? Yeah, look at what's going on with Mondani and all these other Marxists and Islamists working together throughout the country. Civil War, the polls and the data is showing us more and more Americans believe we're headed in that direction. World War III, it's already begun in some forms. Globalism, we're hearing it today out of Mark Carney. That was December 2019. Do you know I got pushback from some so-called smart people? Do you really want to put Civil War in there? Yeah, those were the smart people. So again, that book just came out today. It's based on my 2019 documentary. It just came out today. You don't have to buy it. Worldviewtube.com. Worldviewtube.com/vault. Worldviewtube.com/vault. Peter McElvena of Heart of Oaks.com. It joins us for a few more minutes than Dr. Andy Woods. Peter, what do you make of the five-step plan by Jean Monnet, really the father of the European Union? Sounds like it's actually happening. Sounds like the supra-authority, the supra-government is what exactly we just were hearing in this partnership between Canada and the EU, which I think will happen, particularly as even Donald Trump is calling for America to merge with Canada and Mexico.
Your book is bang on, and you mentioned Tony Blair, who's the boogeyman in this, and I do hope and pray that he's not one of the individuals who actually brings peace to Gaza and Israel. That's another part of that. But you're right that we had initially an economic relationship, and that was with a coal and steel alliance in terms of those two commodities being traded in Europe. Then it went to a political alliance. Then it went to a judicial. Then it went to an economic, and is now at a military level. And I think just today or yesterday, Germany announced that it was now going to bring conscription for all its men to prepare them for a war against Russia. And Germany wanting actually war against another country, when have we seen that before? So this is hugely concerning of Europe, Europe that have failed economically. I mean, huge failing economically. We are supposedly in Europe 500 million people. It should be an economic powerhouse, and yet it pales into insignificance to the US. Yet Europe are pushing with this connecting together of those states, erasing the boundaries, and with this moving towards a military union. That is where I think this is very concerning. We've seen the rollout of the digital ID in terms of the COVID tyranny that we saw, and that was a joined up EU system. And that is moving at pace along with digital IDs in other countries. But it is that military relationship, that military suggestion by the German government that all German men, so I don't know whether the German parliament want a war between Germany and Russia. If that's what they want, then we are in serious issues. That level of stupidity at just not understanding the geopolitical situation, and instead of working things through and discussing things with each of those 27 EU countries, they are going over the head, and we've seen this going over the head of certainly of Hungary and Poland, that have those close relationships, certainly in terms of energy, in terms of trade with Russia. They're pushing back a lot on this EU march towards war. So all of this is very concerning. What you put in your book, that 5-step plan, is bang on where we are. And at the end of that 5-step plan, we are at the military push for the EU.
And what do you make of this plan? I've been seeing some maps of a plan to divide Russia. What do you think some of the elite are planning on doing that? Is that what this is all about? And is it about assets? Is it about minerals? Again, particularly as we see we're going from a debt-based system to a tokenization system?
It's difficult to know whether this is just the EU showing off, showing the power they supposedly have to the outside world, especially America, or whether they're actually seriously looking at carving up Russia. Because after 3 years, there is a stalemate, but that stalemate has been because the EU are using Ukraine as a proxy country for a war against Russia. Ukraine only is there has not been peace simply because the European Union and Biden have actually thrown in a huge amount of weaponry. And some of this weaponry, I mean, the Storm Shadow that actually the UK supplied the Ukrainian government, one of the most advanced missiles available in the world today, that actually was given to the Ukraine military before the British military received it. So we, instead of the British military having a weapon that will protect Britain, we have decided that we have handed over all those weaponry to Ukraine to fight that war. Britain are left defenseless, as are every European country are utterly defenseless in terms of the munitions that have been passed over. We have depleted our reserves simply because we have handed it to another country. So Europe are in an extremely weak position. It is rhetoric at this point because we no longer have a military defense. I think the UK head of the UK army about 4 or 5 months ago said that if Britain went to war, we would have about 3 days of armaments, 3 days left, in which case we would be exhausted of any bullets, of any artillery shells, of any rockets, any missiles. We would have nothing left. And the issue is because we have given it away to a foreign nation. So it is, the division of Russia is utterly bonkers. But sadly, I think we have stupidity that has pervaded through the European political mindset, and certainly in the UK.
Yeah. Wow. Hearts of Oak. Hearts of Oak. I thought it was Heart of Oaks, but it's hearts. Many hearts, one oak. Heartsofoak.org. Heartsofoak.org. Anything I have not asked you need to tell our audience before you go?
No, it's just please pray for the situation. And I know your audience does, Brandon. Pray that we actually would at peace on the edge of Europe, in Ukraine, Russia. Pray for the peace to remain in Israel. And of course, pray for peace of Jerusalem and Israel, which I know your viewers pray each and every day. So thank you, Brandon.
Thank you. And Peter, by the way, last night for an hour, we covered the war in Sudan, which is basically not even being mentioned. Over 2 million Christians murdered by the Islamists in Sudan. Heartbreaking footage. Women and children, pregnant women being murdered, put in ditches, trenches, murdered. Over 2 million, somewhere around 2.8 million so far, murdered Christians by the Islamists. And it seems as though Sudan has the largest untapped oil and gold reserves, a huge untapped gold and oil reserves. And you've got, countries lining up on this. Annie did a big Substack on it. It was with me last night. Are you following this? Because this has gotten very little attention in the media. I guess it's because it's Christians and there are no Jews to blame for this. So the genocide is the Christians in Sudan, but we're being told it's the Palestinian and Hamas terrorists by Israel.
What's happening in Sudan is horrendous, and I've also watched what's happening in Ethiopia.
Nigeria.
Nigeria. I read a great article in the Washington Times 2 days ago on the bloodshed that's happening in Ethiopia, and I've talked to a number of Ethiopian pastors of what is happening there, and of course in northern Nigeria. And it seems though the West have abandoned, except President Trump, and he is actually waking up the world to this. And I really do pray that President Trump actually speaking on what is happening in Africa, not just Nigeria, and I hope that his understanding and his intelligence and his engagement spreads to what is happening in Sudan and Ethiopia, because those are horrendous cases where we have slaughters, as you mentioned, Brandon, and the West is simply not aware. And if it's President Trump is the individual that highlights these atrocities to the world, then wonderful. He's the one that God raises up to highlight this. And we need to pray for brothers and sisters in Christ that face persecution because of their faith, persecution unto death. And that is something that we know little about. And yet that is happening in large parts of the world. So yeah, I've certainly seen that a little bit, but certainly also seen Ethiopia and northern Nigeria, and I'm sure it's been replicated in other nations. But thank God for President Trump, Brandon.
Well, let's hope he does something about it. And we have a full program at worldviewtube.com. The videos are heartbreaking. Mothers and their children begging for their lives as they're shot down. Men begging as they're shot down by the Islamists. So it clearly doesn't fit the narrative, but it needs to be brought to the attention of people, and we're going to continue to do that, as I know you are too, Peter. Heartsofoak.org, heartsofoak.org. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Brandon.
And we'll be right back with Dr. Andy Woods as we talk about some of the events in the world through the lens of Bible prophecy. Don't go away. Take a look at this picture. This is my beautiful wife. Does that look like a grandmother to you? Seriously, does that look like a grandmother to you? Well, she is. I took this picture on August 31st, 2025. Now, you want to know how she stays so young and beautiful looking? Well, I'll tell you right now, she does 3 things for sure. She takes Numi every day that's loaded with glutathione to detox your cells. She also takes Bella Grace each and every day, loaded with 3 powerful ingredients. And she takes Gatatana, 1 scoop, the equivalent of 90 billion plant cells. So you can get all of these products that she and myself take each and every day at worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Worldviewtube.com/sponsors. It's a great way to support your health. and also our broadcast network as we continue to push out free Christian worldview programming. Worldview2.com/sponsors. And welcome back to the broadcast. Glad you are with us. Joining me now is Dr. Andy Woods. Dr. Woods, welcome to the program.
Brandon, good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Whew, I had to sneeze. Sorry about that. All right. What do you make of the conversation we were just having, Dr. Woods, with Peter?
Well, obviously a lot of bells go off when I hear the issues discussed. I mean, number one, transnationalism or supranationalism over Europe. I mean, we've been talking about that from time immemorial. Mm-hmm. That's the 2 feet there in Daniel 2, the feet mixed with iron and clay.
Oh, no. You know all this happened in AD 70. Nero was the Antichrist. That great theologian Kirk Cameron told us. Come on.
Well, gee whiz, where do I go? How do I handle that one?
Well, you just have to admit you're wrong, you know?
Well, there are people that say that, as you know, preterists. But
yes.
The problem
of course, just so the audience knows, I'm being very sarcastic. Go ahead. Dr. Woods and I agree.
Yeah. Well, the problem is there was no 10-king confederacy in the time of Christ. Christ didn't suddenly overthrow a 10-king confederacy. So the details of Daniel 2 are yet future, and since the feet are connected to the legs, you know, we've been saying a long time that this future Antichrist empire is going to rise out of the cultural inheritance of ancient Rome, and that was the whole focus of your discussion, going back to Monet. By the way, Monet, I've looked at his memoirs, published memoirs, and I think it's almost on the last page. He says, and anybody can look these up, what we've done in Europe in terms of something that I'll call regionalism, meaning we're going to use free trade as an excuse to, you know, get these nations to sort of conglomerate. And once they're conglomerated, it's kind of like, just fooling. Didn't tell you we were going to have one currency. Didn't tell you we're going to have one military. Didn't tell you you're going to, you know, lose control of your borders completely. It was all just free trade, free trade, free trade. And Monet basically says you got to lie to them to get them involved in this conglomeration. I mean, he said that. When did he die? The late 70s, something like that?
79, I think it was.
Yeah, and then in his memoirs, he says what we've done in Europe, we're going to replicate all over the world. Now, he didn't give a number of regions, but the Club of Rome has told us there's going to be 10. Boy, that sounds a lot like the 10 toes and the 10 horns, Daniel 2, Daniel 7. And eventually we're going to take all of these regions and we're going to conglomerate them into one giant, you know, global governance. So what you're talking about with this Monet method and, you know, this strategy of, you know, transnationalism, the tiny European states relinquishing their sovereignty, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, is just right on par with what we've been talking about from time immemorial with Bible prophecy. And this coming one world empire of the Antichrist, when you look at Daniel 7, verse 23, it says it crushes and treads down the inhabitants of the earth, meaning it will be tyrannical. So all of these anti-free speech laws, you know, against criticizing Islam, to the point where one rogue judge says the opposite and everybody is happy because it's so out of the ordinary. But that decision was not in par with the direction Europe is going. That fits in with, you know, this whole concept of one world tyranny as well. And then I was particularly intrigued with the whole climate change mindset because the Club of Rome, all the way back in 1991, I use this quote frequently by King and Schneider. They basically say we came up with the idea of climate change. Of course, in the 90s, they said that. They didn't call it climate change. They called it global warming, but they added into the mix pollution, climate issues that man is, you know, supposedly causing. And they said we just made this issue up because we needed a global crisis to bring in our global government. And I really appreciated what you said at the top when you talked about how the real crisis is not the crisis that they're rescuing us from, allegedly. It's the superstructure that they're putting in place to enslave us. And so that part of the discussion was very interesting as well, particularly with the leadership in Canada, now carte blanche signing on to that agenda, marching in lockstep with Europe.
Mm. And of course, we're right on cue here. They're going to continue to use climate change, which you think at some point they could find something different that actually could be provable. I mean, you would think this has been so debunked with science, but then again, these folks don't follow the science, right? COVID comes to mind. They don't follow the science, but they're going to continue going with the climate change. You think they could find something different to use to scare the people into compliance? How about, I don't know, we're all inflating away the currencies. All of our economies are going to collapse. Because you could at least look at that and go, yeah, that's really happening. So if we don't all want to see hyperinflation and lose everything we have, maybe we should all come together with the natural resources in the ground. We can tokenize it all and then go to a one world system that's actually backed with a currency that is easy for trade and it actually is backed by hard assets, real assets. I'm not making the case for them, but if I were going to make the case, I would actually do it on something people could see, right? It blows my mind they don't do that on a global scale.
I think the big operative word in their circles is polycrisis, meaning they're it's like a prosecutor trying to prosecute somebody. You just keep throwing Jell-O against the wall until something sticks. I mean, if you really want to get someone thrown in jail, the prosecutor can do that, particularly at the federal level. And that's kind of how I feel with these globalists. It's just one crisis after another. If this one doesn't work, then we'll try this one. And I think really what they're looking for is something to come together in unison, I should say. Economics, inflation, currency. Of course, we've already seen what they've done with the issue of, international health and the whole COVID era. And you throw into the mix, this climate change idea, which they're not giving up on. I mean, the United Nations with the COP summit, I think is meeting this week. Maybe they've concluded, I'm not sure, featuring luminaries like Al Gore, of all people. They're obviously doubling down and they're not letting go of that issue either, in spite of the fact that Trump has distanced himself from that issue. And catch this, even people like Bill Gates have come out publicly on blogs and distanced themselves, from climate change. And so you would think that these globalists would give up on that issue, but they're not giving up on that issue or any issue because they need some kind of crisis. And what they really are looking for is polycrisis.
And here's that rocket scientist, Prince William. And this guy I'm sorry, this guy is not, why is it these people rise to the top that are so dumb? Of course, he was born into it, I guess, again, bad breeding on the part of that family line. Because, Prince Andrew, and I guess he's now gotten his title taken away. The Queen, wow, what did she do? But I actually had someone text me today who runs in circles with very, very wealthy people, guys that are worth hundreds of millions, and some of them $1 billion, and people that have been highly tied into major financial institutions in America. And I guess he was at an event talking to some of them. And he texted me today and said, why is it that so many of these people that are so well known, so famous, and get so high are so dumb? He said, I stand there and I talk to them, and they don't expect me to argue with them, but I go ahead because what do I got to lose? I argue back with them, and they can't defend their position. They're just parroting propaganda. He said, the more I'm around these people, I realize the dumbest people in the world have risen to some of the highest levels. And all I could say is, it's God's judgment. Romans 1, a nation and a world of fools, vain, useless, and futile. Professing to be wise, they are fools, the Bible says. Well, here's Prince William.
We come together today here in the heart of the Amazon, at a pivotal moment in human history. A moment that demands courage, cooperation, and unwavering commitment to our planet's future. A future that belongs not to us, but to our children and grandchildren. I want to first express my profound gratitude to Brazil for welcoming us all to Belém. Over the last week, I've seen firsthand that your global commitment to environmental progress is not new. It's built on decades of bold action, visionary thinking, and shared purpose. From the Rio Earth Summit in 1992 to Brazil.
Which, by the way, his dad helped put that all together. Their summit in Rio in 92 with Maurice Strong isn't the only hope for the world, and this isn't the only hope for the planet, that the industrialized civilizations collapse. Isn't it our responsibility to bring that about? His dad met on the royal yacht with a bunch of them before the event in 92 to bring it about, which our president, George H. Bush, Mr. New World Order, was there. He's on video praising Maurice Strong in one of my documentaries. A couple more minutes. I know you're losing IQ listening to him, but here we go.
Rapidly becoming a leader in renewable energy and sustainable agriculture, you have shown the world what climate ambition looks like. Just earlier this week, the vibrant city of Rio de Janeiro hosted the Earthshot Prize, a global initiative I founded to accelerate and spotlight the most innovative solutions to our planet's greatest environmental challenges.
Yeah, and he goes on to say that the world is at a tipping point. He actually said this in his speech, that the, quote, we are edging dangerously close to the Earth's tipping points, end quote. You know, he definitely is on my short list to be the Antichrist. I know a lot of people had his dad, but I would put him on the short list. Being from the royal family there in Europe, I would put him definitely on the short list of my Antichrist list. I know Tony Blair was put on there by Jimmy DeYoung. That's still possible. But I'd put Prince William on there. Dr. Woods?
Well, gosh, there's a lot to respond to there. Let's go back to the Rio de Janeiro conference, 1992. I appreciate what you said. Bush, the first Bush, put that infrastructure in place that got us sucked into all of that. And so what we've seen in the United States is we get a conservative president like Trump, and he pulls us out. You get a progressive president like Biden, he puts us back in. Trump gets a second term, he pulls us out. So we're at a very delicate place where we can be pulled in or pushed out, or vice versa, depending on the stroke of a pen, depending on if an election goes bad for us, you know, or not. And we need more than that. And so that's why I think we should call on President Trump to not just pull us out of the Paris Climate Accord, which I'm thrilled he did, but pull us out of completely the infrastructure that's in place, preventing a, God forbid, President Gavin Newsom, President AOC, or somebody like that from ever putting us back into the structure again. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for President Trump to not just pull us out of these things, but to demolish the structure upon which they are erected. And that will truly secure his legacy and history as a great nationalist.
Mm-hmm. And of course, Prince William reportedly flew on a private plane 5,000 miles to give a speech on climate change and how we're all at the tipping point. But they got all these gigantic homes that I'm sure they're got heat and air conditioning in, which Maurice Strong said we had to get rid of all the heat and air conditioners, certainly the air conditioners. I mean, wow. That's all I can say. We'll be back with more. Don't go away. Andy Woods, AndyWoodsMinistries.org.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work. Try to see a doctor this week or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Go to worldviewhealthcare.com. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. WorldviewHealthcare.com. That's WorldviewHealthcare.com.
The emergency kit available at worldviewhealthcare.com. Make sure you don't have to go to urgent care. I got pneumonia. I didn't have to go. I took this last year. Stayed at home. Went to bed. And welcome back. Glad you're with us. Andy Woods is with us. AndyWoodsMinistries.org. AndyWoodsMinistries.org. And just finished up Revelation on Sunday night, as you guys know, 53 lessons. And the commentary and study guide will be out before the end of the month. I just talked to Jill, my editor, who's also helping with Jeb, I think, to lay out the pages of that. They're telling me they think that one will be done by the end of November. So there you go. You don't need to buy it. It'll be in the vault for vault members at worldviewtube.com/vault. Comes in, I think, around 200 plus pages. So verse by verse through the book of Revelation, a year and a half, 53 lessons. And that's available to you at worldviewtube.com/vault. Sure appreciate all of you calling our testimonial line to leave a testimonial that we can play on the air coming up December 4 and 5. We're going to be doing our International Worldview Weekend online, an International Online Worldview Weekend. You would think we're all about serving the climate, so we're not flying them all in. We're going to do it online. We're not concerned about the climate, but you would think they would have done that meeting in Brazil online by Zoom or something, right? But no, I guess Prince William had to fly a private jet. But we are doing an online event coming up December 4 and 5, a Thursday and a Friday. And we would love to play your testimonials of what the broadcast has meant to you. You can leave a voicemail that will play on the air at 901-468-9357. If the voicemail gets full, just give us a couple hours. We'll get it cleaned out and let you get back in there. 901-468-9357. Thank you for your testimonial to encourage us and others. Just like Drew from Michigan. That's so encouraging. And we'd love to hear more of that from you. 901-468-9357. Dr. Woods, let's go to another issue, and that is 42 Muslim candidates seize control of U.S. elections. CAIR's political army has arrived. Something Annie Cyrus and myself and others have been warning about. Sharam, Usama. I'm starting to believe that Islam plays a much bigger role in end times Bible prophecy than maybe some of the guys that you and I respect so much considered. Granted, they weren't alive, in the last few years to see what's happened. So what are your thoughts as you look at Bible prophecy now and see the rise globally of Islam, even in Sudan, we're dealt with last night, 2.8 million Christians murdered in Sudan by Islamists. Do you think we're going to see a bigger role of Islam than we maybe had some of our 70s and 80s Bible prophecy experts understand?
Yeah, well, the title of my book, one of my books, is The Middle East Meltdown, and the subtitle is The Coming Islamic Invasion of Israel. And as you and Peter were talking, all of the countries that you mentioned, North Africa, Sudan, Ethiopia, those are all players in the end times invasion by a conglomeration of nations against Israel. And every single one of those nations, the only possible exception is Rosh or Russia. But even that nation has a growing Islamic population within it. But other than Rosh or Russia, every nation that's mentioned there in Ezekiel 38 and 39, you ask yourself, what do they all have in common? Well, they're all Islamic. And Islam, I believe, it furnishes the motivation for the attack against Israel, because in Islam, Jerusalem is a holy site. It's where Muhammad ascended back to Allah on a steed named Barak. It's the third holiest site within Islam. And so Israel's mere presence there is looked at as a usurper, an occupier, and disrespect of Allah. And then you throw into the mix what happened in our recent election, where we now have 6 mayors, 4 statewide legislative offices, 20 city, town council and commissioners, 2 judicial county offices, 6 school boards, and 3 other positions, 42 total, are now won by Muslims. And that is a milestone for them. And essentially what they're doing is they're doing exactly what they said they would do. They're changing our country from within. Remember, they're the ones that said we're going to, topple your house with your miserable hands, your miserable house with your hands. And it's cultural jihad. They're changing the United States from within. America was started as a Judeo-Christian country, a Bible-based country. That's why we've always given deference to Israel, because we see Israel in the Bible. But all you have to do is get the nation's character to change a little bit. And now we can understand why America doesn't seem to, on the pages of God's word, jump to Israel's aid or assistance or even defense during that infamous Gog-Magog invasion. I mean, the more pro-Islamic our country becomes, the more the concept of Zionism will dissipate, and the more people will look at the nation of Israel in negative terms. And so I think all of this is fitting into the pages of Bible prophecy. And so will Islam play a role in the end times? I mean, obviously, there's very little doubt in my mind about the answer to that question.
Let's go to this real quick. Texas, sprawling 150,000 square foot Islamic Center opens in Houston. Wait a minute. You're in Sugar Land, Texas. This is not far from you, my friend.
Right. That's why I included it, in my stack of stuff here. And here is the mayor of Houston, a man named John Whitmire. We used to call this in basketball matador defense, where you kind of don't play much defense and you let your man score at will, kind of like the way the NBA is today. Not to get into sports analyst business too much, but to me, watching professional basketball is such a disappointment. Nobody plays defense, and it's like a three-point shooting contest, and you don't have the dominant centers or big men, that you had when I followed the game, guys like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Bill Walton, etc. No extra charge for that. Larry Bird.
Yeah, Larry Bird.
Those kind of guys. So people just don't play defense, and that's what this Whitmire is doing. He's not playing any defense. He's, rolling out the red carpet for this latest Islamic enclave, which, quite frankly, is on par with your buddy there, Yasser Qadi, and what he's trying to do in Epic down in Plano.
Which they're renaming and going to keep going, which we knew they would, because I think your governor is pretty useless. But on top of that, they're exploiting our religious liberties. So they know how to use the courts and our own laws and liberties against us. So apparently they're just going to rename it Prairie something another and keep going. No, really, they are. And we told everybody that would happen. I mean,
sad.
We told everybody that would happen. Islam will dominate America, okay? We will see Christians being beheaded in America. We will see jihadist attacks in America. We will see Christians persecuted and prosecuted for speaking truth about Islam. The question is, are we ready? Be armed up spiritually. Take care.
This has been...
And we're back with WROS out of Jacksonville, Florida, and Worldview Tube right here. Dr. Woods, what else? You sent me a big stack of stuff. Anything else jumps out at you in your stack of stuff today you want to particularly talk about in the last few minutes?
Well, here's something, and this is Sugarland also. This is a tweet where I live. Amy Mick of Rare Foundation, you've quoted a lot of her stuff, as have I. Here's a guy whose last name of all names is Imam, who's the hereditary leader of the Shia Imam Ismaili Muslims. And here he is visiting different cities in Texas. And he came to Houston, got red carpet treatment. He was treated like a foreign dignitary. He's not a mayor. He's not a senator. He's not a governor. He's a Muslim, and he's treated, as if he's some kind of ally. There's the mayor, John Whitmire of Houston, rolling out the red carpet. And here's the Sugarland mayor, my mayor, Carol McCutcheon, doing the exact same thing. And then the guy goes down to Dallas and Carrollton, cities out there, and they do the same thing for him out there. So there's no defense being played by our Republican establishment here in the great state of Texas. And it's almost like they're cooperating, with this sort of Islamic cultural jihad agenda. And it's almost like they think, boy, if we're nice to these people and play patty cake with them, then the threat of Islam will disappear. And I just don't know where the heads are of our Republican leadership and why they're not taking a stand against this.
Yeah, absolutely. Look at this. Here's the growing pain, Kirk Cameron. 96,000 people have seen this, and this was just put out not too long ago, 4 hours ago. Kirk Cameron's done with Israel. He's encouraging Christian Zionists to read their Bibles and not to be so retarded. Oh, wow. If you're getting your theology and worldview from Kirk Cameron anymore, I mean, we had him speak for us several times on his testimony, but I don't know. We stopped booking him. I mean, he's a nice guy, but I realized pretty quick, this guy is, well, he basically said, I just memorized Ray Comfort's stuff and walked out and gave the speech. I was like, why would you admit that? Why can't you put this in your own words? So I am, in my opinion, I think he's a little he's not a real bright fella, in my opinion. But regardless of that, why would you want to get your theology and doctrine and eschatology from Kirk Cameron, of all people?
Well, he is what we would call an empty vessel or an empty suit. He's somebody that has popularity because of his role as a childhood actor. And he is someone that people will attach weight and credibility to based on his appearance, in childhood comedy. But he doesn't know anything about theology. In fact, when he talks, it's actually Gary DeMar, Kenneth Gentry, those kinds of people that are behind him, pulling the strings, because he's not serving up anything new. I mean, we showed that the other day on your show when we refuted his beast equals Nero hypothesis. Those are just old, dated, well-used arguments going back decades. I mean, Kenneth Gentry was saying all that stuff in print as a scholar. It's been debunked and refuted, and now they've found a new kind of empty vessel to pour their, vile, sick, wicked, satanic theory into. And here are these kind of mind-numbed robots just hanging on his every word because what he says must be true because I saw him on my TV screen when I was growing up.
All right, Dr. Woods. How long before the Lord returns?
I can't tell you, but it looks like.
What's your wife say? I think she has a more optimistic outlook.
Well, she says, I'll let her speak for herself. I don't want to put words in her mouth, but John Walver was asked that question, and he said this: "I wouldn't buy any green bananas." So let's just leave it there.
I wouldn't buy green bananas. Well, tonight on Brand House Live, I'm going to deal with the dollar. Folks, the government doesn't want to release the CPI numbers. They say that somehow the Democrats during the shutdown messed it up. I'm not buying it. The consumer price index, inflation is higher than they want you to know. Donald Trump just told you everything is down. Energy prices are down. Inflation is down. So they can't release the numbers because it's not down. And I think they're about to do another cut the 1st of December. They are going to start doing quantitative easing. They have the choice really only of to inflate away our debt, to inflate away the debt, okay? All the people that are following these kind of things and have for decades all know we're headed for massive inflation, folks, to inflate away the debt. So we'll deal with that tonight on Brandon House Live. 15 seconds. Thoughts on that, Dr. Woods?
Well, we can blame another Republican for that, a guy I generally like, but Richard Milhouse Nixon took us off the gold standard, and that was just a catastrophic decision leading to this kind of monetary policy that we have today.
Wow, incredible. All right, Dr. Andy Woods, AndyWoodsMinistries.org. Thank you, sir, for being with us. Thank you, folks. And don't forget, my brand new book is out at worldviewtube.com/vault. Siege is now out.
This is Brannon House Live. Whether the issue is law, science, economics,